Here we are again dealing with, for the second time in less than 6 months, a prima facie question of privilege from a ruling of Mr. Deputy Speaker arising from the partisan conduct of the Speaker of the House. This is truly unprecedented. And when I spoke back in December on the initial prima facie question of privilege, I never would have imagined that in just a matter of months I'd be on my feet again with the Speaker having engaged in a very similar transgression of engaging in partisan activities. Madam Speaker, it is of fundamental importance in discharging the duties and responsibilities of Speaker that the Speaker not only be impartial, but be seen to be impartial. And it follows, therefore, that the Speaker must refrain from partisan activities and engaging in partisan commentary, both in this chamber and outside of this chamber. As the leading procedural authority for this place, Bosk and Gannon states at pages 323 and 324 on this matter, quote, "When in the chair, the Speaker embodies the power and authority of the office strengthened by rule and precedent. He or she must at all times show and be seen to show the impartiality required to sustain the trust and goodwill of the House. In order to protect the impartiality of the office, the Speaker abstains from all partisan political activity." End of quote. And aside from the excerpt, I would wish to elaborate on why a Speaker must be nonpartisan and seen to be nonpartisan and avoid partisan activities. And that is because the Speaker is first and foremost the Speaker of the House of Commons. He or she is the Speaker of this entire House. He is the Speaker for all honorable members in this House, entrusted with significant powers and authority to rule on matters, not only on matters of procedure, but also on matters that go to the heart of the rights and privileges of each honorable member in this august chamber. The Speaker is like a referee or a judge. The Speaker's rulings are final. There is no appeal. And as such, in order for the Speaker to fulfill their responsibilities, they must retain the respect of members and the confidence of members. And in order to do so, the Speaker must rise above day-to-day partisanship. Now, I will add a few caveats to that. Each Speaker, generally, has arrived in this place running for a political party. However, when they become the Speaker, they are expected to not engage in partisan activity, notwithstanding that they would have had a partisan background, other than that they continue to serve as a Liberal MP or a Conservative MP, but not in sitting in the Conservative or Liberal caucus or any political party's caucus. There is a limited, some limited flexibility for a Speaker if they are running for re-election at election time to, of course, run under their party's banner, but even in the context of an election. The Speaker, as has been the practice, has generally refrained from making overtly partisan statements or taking partisan positions, and has generally focused in the context of a campaign on local issues and their representation as an individual member of Parliament. Now, with that said, that context about why it is necessary for the Speaker to be nonpartisan and to acknowledge the limited caveats to that exist, as has been the practice, this Speaker has repeatedly failed to fulfill the standard that is expected of the Speaker to refrain from partisanship and partisan activities. This is not the case of one lapse in judgment, a one-off, so to speak, but rather part of a pattern. Indeed, there have been at least 6 incidents in which the Speaker has engaged in partisan activities or made partisan comments in the 8 short months that he has been Speaker. 6 times, Madam Speaker, including 3 times between December 1st and December 5th of 2023. The first incident occurred on December 1st when the Speaker voluntarily gave, he set up an interview with Laura Stone of the Globe and Mail on the topic of the Ontario Liberal leader John Fraser retiring, in which the Speaker heaped praise on the Ontario Liberal leader, a partisan figure, the Liberal leader in Ontario, and referred to the Liberal Party of Ontario as our party. Now, I would say, Madam Speaker, that this at the very least demonstrated a total lack of judgment on the part of the Speaker to set up an interview with a national newspaper reporter to engage in what amounted to partisan commentary praising a partisan political figure in Ontario. But one could say, well, maybe that was just a one-off. That was an error in judgment. But it didn't end there. The very next day, a video was played of the Speaker at the ultra-partisan venue of the Ontario Liberal Party Leadership Convention, providing a partisan message to a partisan political figure, namely the same outgoing Ontario Liberal Party leader, John Fraser. The Speaker's message spoke about his years of activism in the Liberal Party, how he worked hand in hand with John Fraser to help get Dalton McGuinty elected. And to make matters worse, the Speaker shot the video from the Speaker's office in the House of Commons and used parliamentary resources to convey a partisan message to be played at a partisan political convention, and wore the non-partisan robes of the Speaker to add insult to injury. And then as problematic as that, the message on the video was a message from the Speaker of the House of Commons, played at the Ontario Liberal Convention. Now, Madam Speaker, when it was reported, when people saw that video, there was general shock that the Speaker had done something that clearly had crossed a line. But the Speaker didn't have the humility to even acknowledge that he made a mistake. He dismissed his transgression as merely one of perception. And when he came before the Procedure and House Affairs Committee, he didn't accept any real responsibility, just like his friend, the Prime Minister. He said that it was a big misunderstanding, that the video was intended for a smaller private gathering. I don't suppose it makes it much better that the Speaker would use House of Commons resources conveying a partisan message to be played at a smaller partisan venue of Ontario Liberals, but that's the Speaker's logic. I'd say it is illogic. And the Speaker's explanation, by the way, didn't add up. It was outright contradicted by other witnesses who came to committee who said that the request had been made for Mr. Fraser's wife to the Speaker's Chief of Staff, and that the video had always been intended to be played at the Ontario Liberal Convention, and that there was no private, intimate event that occurred or that was ever planned. But I digress. As this was happening, as the Speaker was being called out for his partisan activities, shooting a partisan video played at a partisan convention, requiring this House to be seized of the matter of a prima facie question of privilege. The first prima facie question of privilege, the Speaker, to demonstrate his contempt, while the House was sitting, while the House was seized with the matter, took off to Washington, D.C. to, at taxpayers' expense, hobnob with a bunch of liberal D.C. elites, in which the Speaker yet again engaged in partisanship. This while he's under fire for two partisan transgressions. It's unbelievable. He attended a reception for one Claus Gramco, who was retiring from the Frederick Naumann Foundation, a foundation closely connected with the Liberal Party of Canada's sister party in Germany. And during the reception, the Speaker talked about his days as a Liberal, his days as a Liberal youth president. The Speaker was essentially thumbing his nose at this House and demonstrating that in his mind the rules and the standards that apply to the Speaker of the House don't apply to him. And it should be noted that the Speaker didn't get off scot-free for his transgression. The Procedure and House Affairs Committee, in a report that was adopted by this House, ordered that the Speaker reimburse the House of Commons for any costs associated with the production of the video using House of Commons resources, as well as to provide an apology to this House, an apology that the Speaker initially refused to provide. Now, you would think that, Madam Speaker, after that the Speaker might have learned his lesson, but it seems not, because we found out shortly after that the Speaker had been engaging in other partisan activities. For example, the Speaker attended a Liberal Party of Quebec political reception for the Quebec Liberal MNA for Gatineau. And then it was reported in the National Post that within weeks of being elected as Speaker of the House, the Speaker contacted a former Liberal MP to write an op-ed praising him and attacking the official opposition. The Speaker took it upon himself to orchestrate an op-ed attacking the leader of the opposition, using a friend to do so because he knew that he couldn't do so publicly. That is conduct completely unbecoming of a Speaker. It was calculated partisanship by the Speaker, and he hoped that he could do it in a hidden way between his friend, the former Liberal MP, but he got caught as a result of a report in the National Post. And now, Madam Speaker, we have the latest transgression by the Speaker, and that is that the Speaker's Liberal Riding Association of Hull-Elmer organized an event, a summer evening with the Speaker. Now, on its face, if it was simply an event hosted by his riding association, if it was simply billed a summer evening with the honorable member, that would not be an issue. A Speaker it has been the practice for Speakers to attend events in their riding, including events of their local association, but to do so in a way that is not overly partisan. But that isn't what happened in this case. In fact, what was posted to promote the event was an ultra-partisan message. And I think it's important to read that message that was posted on the Liberal Party website for a summer evening with the Speaker. Quote, "It's an opportunity to join fellow Liberals to talk about ways we can continue to build a better future for all Canadians, fellow Liberals." But on top of that, it says, while the leader of the opposition and his Conservatives propose reckless policies that would risk the health, safety, and pocketbooks, our Liberal team is focused on making life more affordable for Canadians, and it went on. Madam Speaker, that is an overtly partisan message. And it is not one, not two, not three, not four, but the sixth time that the Speaker has crossed the line. And so it really comes down to this. How many times does this have to happen? Well, it's happened 6 times in 8 months. Madam Speaker, enough is enough. The Speaker has repeatedly fallen below the standard expected of the Speaker. It is a standard that has been adhered to by his predecessors. And I say respectfully that if he truly did have an appreciation and respect for the high office that he serves in and the authority that it carries over this House, that he would do the honorable thing and resign as Speaker of this House. But seeing, Madam Speaker, that he has not seen fit to do that, it leaves us with no other choice put forward in this motion, and that is to vote non-confidence in the Speaker. He has lost the confidence of the official opposition and the Bloc Québécois, and has demonstrated a repeated pattern of partisanship. And I urge the passage of this motion But I hope that it doesn't come to that. I hope the Speaker finally does the right thing and resigns. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Government Deputy House Leader.
I don't think that the Speaker ever had the confidence of that member, the Conservatives, or the Bloc Québécois, but that's not the issue at hand, Madam Speaker. My question is this. The member spoke at great length about different activities that the Speaker does in his riding. Well, can he explain to me, and I would really appreciate, answering my question directly. This member has an ability to listen clearly to what I'm saying. I would really like an answer to my question and address it without skating off somewhere else. The member from Regina Capel, when he was the Speaker of the House of Commons, not only went to fundraisers in his ridings, he went to a fundraiser in the member from Regina, Wascana, who is next door to him. And there's actually, I'm looking at a Facebook post of it where the member from Regina, Wascana, thanks the member, the honourable member, for attending that event. Can the member please tell me why it's so outrageous now, but it wasn't for when the member from Regina Capel did it?
The honourable member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Madam Speaker, I believe that the fundraiser that the member for Kingston and the Islands is referring to was one in which the then former Speaker attended, but did not promote on social media, did not make remarks. I don't even believe that he was introduced. And so it's a very, very different set of circumstances.
It has to be a point of order. The honourable member for the honourable deputy government House Leader.
I would seek unanimous consent of the House to table this actual post because the member is incorrect in what he's saying, and it will clarify for him if he accepts this. I ask with that we table this post so the member knows what he's talking about.
So first of all, I do want to remind members not to point to items they may have in their hands, but I do want to ask, does the honourable member have unanimous consent?
No.
No, there's no unanimous consent. I'll allow the order. The honourable member knows that he's not to show any document in the House, that it is a prop, and again, there are a variety of members who order. This is the problem that we have, is when several members from different sides continue to not abide by the direction of the chair. So I ask all members to please abide by that, including the honourable member who just spoke. And so I think that, this House could actually run a lot more smoothly if individuals were to respect the decisions that are being made and to respect each other here in the House. On the point of order, but I've already ruled on this one, so if it's on this one, I'm not going to hear it. The honourable member, okay, there we go. The honourable member for St. Albert, Edmonton has 30 seconds to respond to the question that was posed.
Again, Madam Speaker, the member for Regina Capel merely attended an event. This is very different than the current Speaker of the House, who posted a overtly partisan message about the Liberal Party and expressly attacked the leader of the opposition. It's just more smoke and mirrors from the member for Kingston and the Islands.
Questions and comments? The honourable member, l'honorable députée de Thérèse de Blainville.
The honourable member for Thérèse de Blainville. Thank you, Madam Speaker. We are experiencing this once again. The Liberal Party calls what's happening delay and blocking tactics, but I think the most serious blocking and obstruction tactic is what the Speaker has been doing. Some say that the Conservatives and the Bloc do not have confidence in the Speaker, but confidence must be earned and deserved. The Speaker of this House, once again, has shown that he's not worthy of our confidence in him. So here's my question to my colleague. Why is the government still defending the undefendable in this current situation? The honourable member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I concur with the member for Thérèse de Blainville that the Speaker's actions at this point are indefensible. And it is a part of a repeated pattern in which he has exercised a lack of judgment, blinded by his long-standing partisanship. The Speaker is a partisan, pure and simple. He is a partisan Liberal, and he has been unable to separate his partisan positions, his partisan views, from discharging the high office that he holds as the Speaker of this House, and in the circumstances, it's why he needs to resign.
Questions and comments? The Honourable from Windsor West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And here we are when the Conservatives also had a Speaker, who still isn't in the House, who used his office for a video during a nomination meeting, during an electoral process, and was fined on precedent $500, which I believe the Conservatives were actually part of the committee as well, too, fined $500, and then now they want something different, which they did in the past. And this is what really it boils down to. How can the Conservatives continue to propagate this stance that they have when their own former Speaker paid a $500 fine because he used his parliamentary office in these chambers and these areas to do a video during an electoral process to support one of their candidates that's now here? How can they continue the charade?
Such hypocrites.
The Honourable Member for St. Albert Edmonton.
Speaker, I guess once again the member for Windsor West has demonstrated that he is a member of the government caucus defending the partisan Liberal Speaker of this House, conflating unrelated matters relating to the member for Regina Capel, who's not the Speaker of the House. It's more smoke and mirrors. But if he wants to talk about consistency, for example, I would remind him about the position that the member for New Westminster Burnaby took, the NDP House Leader, with regards to this Speaker on the very question of this Speaker's partisanship. And that is that he said, quote, "This cannot happen moving forward." This cannot happen moving forward. Well, it's happened at least 3 more times since then, in terms of 2 incidents that were reported that happened beforehand, but were reported after the fact, and now this incident. And the member for New Westminster said if there was any derogation from that, that the NDP would vote non-confidence. Well, they have an opportunity to do so now, but again...
Sorry, I do have to allow for other questions. I know the Honourable Member loves to chat on this. The Honourable Member for Regina Louvain.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. It's a pleasure for me to take to my feet. And the Liberals doth protest too much. They're trying to conflate 2 different scenarios. The member from Regina Capel, when he was the Speaker, went to the airport to pick up the guest speaker for a fundraiser, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, drive him to the fundraiser, took a picture outside, and then left, Madam Speaker. That is nothing like what this Speaker did. And it's hilarious that the Liberals and their junior partners over there are trying to make the connection between these 2 events. This was a Liberal advertised event with the Speaker, full stop, in a riding close to the Hill. Madam Speaker, there is a complete difference. I wonder if my colleague would like to share some light on those comments of how illogical and desperate this costly coalition looks right now.
The Honourable Member St. Albert Edmonton.
Well, I want to thank my colleague, the member for Regina Louvain, and he's absolutely right. There is no connection. It's just an effort by the Liberals to sow confusion and to smear the member for Regina Capel, all the while failing to address the issue at hand, which is the pattern of repeated partisanship displayed by the Speaker of the House. And the reason, I guess, they're so defensive of the Speaker is because the Speaker is a partisan Liberal who has repeatedly demonstrated that he is prepared to take the direction coming from the Prime Minister's office, and that's a whole other issue.
Hear, hear.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Member, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes. Yes, Madam Speaker, there is the reason, the essence as to why it is that we're debating this issue today and yesterday is because of a incident. That's what caused it. Now, here's what the Liberal Party...
The honourable member for St. Albert Edmonton will have an opportunity to answer. I would ask members to pretend that they're in the courthouse, and I'm sure that they know that that would not be acceptable in the courthouse when you start heckling or start yelling across the way. So I would ask members to please be respectful. The honourable parliamentary secretary has about a minute to ask his question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. The Conservative members rose on a matter of privilege based on one incident. And that incident, let me quote from a letter from the Liberal Party of Canada to the Speaker, there through Canadians. The Liberal Party of Canada unequivocally apologizes to you for this mistake. We take full responsibility. Madam Speaker, this is virtually laughable in terms of a joke. The Conservative Party is using character assassination of the Speaker in order to justify the far-right reform attitudes that the Conservatives hold in terms of trying to demonstrate Parliament is dysfunctional. I say shame on them, and let's get down to business and deal with the benefits that Canadians need today and start debating legislation in the budget.
The honourable member for St. Albert Edmonton has just a little over a minute to respond.
Madam Speaker, I would say shame on the parliamentary secretary. That is utter nonsense even for him. This motion arises, yes, from a prima facie question of privilege, a ruling of the Deputy Speaker, and you have demonstrated contempt for the Deputy Speaker by dismissing the seriousness of that matter that has been ruled upon. Consequently, the motion has been brought forward, but there is a broader context to the motion, and that is that this is not just one transgression, but part of a pattern of repeated transgressions of partisanship on the Speaker. It's why he needs to resign, and he needs to resign today.